Well, today is the day where the league finally answered one of the most asked questions that fans has been asking throughout this off season, and that of course is when exactly the upcoming season is going to start. And not only the fact that they announced the official day of the 2021 season that is going to begin, but they also announced some other key important days such as preseason, Heineken Rivalry Week, MLS Decision Day, the 2021 MLS Cup playoffs, and most importantly, when exactly next year's MLS Cup is going to take place. So we start off with MLS Pre-Season Training, which will begin on February 22nd. Now, this is usually a month later than when MLS Pre-Season Training is going to happen, but pretty much most of these days that they set in terms of some key events that's going to be happening in the 2021 season is pushed back of month late. And the preseason this year is going to be 5 weeks, which I know some people would think that that's relatively short preseason, and it seemed like MLS also kind of felt like they want to shorten the preseason so that they can get the season start right away. Well, that is actually not true because that's actually the same amount of weeks of preseason that these teams are going to get compared to last season when they also got 5 weeks of preseason to prepare for the upcoming season. Now, for the start day of the upcoming season, it's going to be taking place in on the weekends of April 3rd and 4th. Then we're going to have MLS Heineken week that is going to be happening in late August. This is when pretty much some of the biggest rivalry in MLS, such as the Cascadia Derby, El Tráfico, Hell is Real Derby, the Hudson River Derby, and all those big rivalry game is going to be taking place in that specific week. Then in late summer, we are actually going to still have the MLS All-Star Game, the League Cup, and the Compyness Cup that is going to be taking place during that period. Now, I'm kind of surprised that they are still thinking about having the MLS All-Star Game this season because I know other leagues like the NBA and NHL have already said they're canceling their All-Star Game for this season. And keep in mind, this year All-Star Game is going to be taking place at Bank of California Stadium in LA, and knowing the fact that LA is pretty much one of the worst hit cities with this COVID-19 pandemic, unless they miraculously recover from this in a 6 month period, or if the vaccine is able to distribute well here in California, and that maybe by the time when the All-Star Game does happen, at least they will have either a limited capacity or even a full capacity crowd at this All-Star Game. I won't be surprised if this All-Star Game is either going to be relocated or they're just going to cancel outright. And, the All-Star Game, for years, I'm kind of one of those person that I'm starting to kind of lose my interest in terms of the fact that we really need an All-Star Game as a league. Like, I understand MLS is trying to kind of be like the other leagues here where you need to of course have an All-Star Game during the middle of the season. But unlike other leagues, MLS is, I think, the only league where, how there's the phrase All-Star break when an All-Star game happened? Yeah, there's no such All-Star break in MLS. Most of the time, the All-Star game is going to be taking place in the middle of the week. So technically, these players that play in the All-Star game, they technically don't even get a break. They get more like an overtime work with the way that they have to play in this All-Star game, and then in a quick spell of period they have to go back to their team and once again have to play for their club team in just such a short amount of period. So yeah, I feel like this All-Star Game, I won't be surprised maybe MLS in the future might reconsider this being kind of a meaningless event, but then again they probably won't because this is a game that generate a lot of revenue new to the league and generate a lot of fan interest, and I know a lot of MLS fans still love the All-Star Game. But again, this year there's a big question whether or not if it's actually going to happen, mainly because it's taking place in LA, where, as I said, this is pretty much one of the worst hit city with this COVID-19 pandemic. And if they decided to maybe move the All-Star Game to somewhere else, where exactly they're going to try to relocate the All-Star Game, and is LA going to still get an All-Star Game heading into next year if the All-Star Game is going to be relocated this year? Now, the League Cup itself, again, knowing the fact that the CONCACAF Champions League is going to be taking place throughout the entire part of the season, it kind of feels weird the fact that the League Cup is still going to happen, and that, let's say if some MLS team does make it to the semifinal of CCL, well, now not only the fact that they have to play those semifinal two-legged game in August, but they're also going to have to play League Cup games. It's going to be taking place in the middle of the week. And I mentioned yesterday how with the problem with CCL now being spread out throughout the entire season, this means there's going to be more fixture congestion. Well, if there's already fixture congestion problem that a lot of these teams might have to face, they're going to get even more fixture congestion that these CCL team that made it to the semifinal of the CONCACAF Champions League if they enter the League Cup. So I'm assuming maybe there is going to be a specific rule where basically if there's any MLS team that's going to be in CCL semifinal, they're probably not going to participate in the League Cup, because I can't imagine how those teams will have to now pretty much have every single week where they have to have a midweek game, and every single week they're going to be playing 3 games in the span of 7 days, and that is just going to fatigue the hell out of squad. And I know a lot of team would not want to have to experience that as what they kind of experienced last season. Now, there's also going to be the Compyness Cup, which again, let's say if Columbus does make it to the CCL semifinal, and that means now they also have to play the two-legged affair of the semifinal on top of the Compyness Cup, and let's say maybe they also will be participating in the League Cup. That's now 3 competition besides playing domestically in MLS that the Columbus Crew need to focus, and I'm pretty sure the Crew is not going to do that, and maybe there might not even be enough time to do such a thing where they get to participate in pretty much 4 competition in the middle of late summer during the August period. So yeah, again, I won't be surprised in terms of the League Cup. Maybe not only the fact that maybe some teams that maybe are already in CCL is not going to participate in this competition, but maybe they should just think about canceling it, because again, I still think the League Cup is a cash cow kind of competition, and that it's just they're trying to bring back to of something that I remember back in the early 2000 and late 2000. Didn't they had like a Super Liga kind of competition where MLS team is facing Liga MX's opponent, and that there's this ongoing discussion of which league is still the best, and they're creating this League Cup as maybe a way to decide what it is. I still think that's not the case, because I feel like this is more of them trying to generate more revenue in terms of both of these leagues, than rather than just to decide who exactly is the best league in the CONCACAF region. Now, moving on, we got November 7th, that is going to be MLS Decision Day, which is actually around the same time that Decision Day was last season. And the playoffs itself also start around the same time as last season on November 19th. And this, of course, happens after the November international break. Then on December 11th will be the MLS Cup for this upcoming season, which is also around the same time when MLS Cup was taking place from last season. So yeah, overall the season itself, it's kind of relatively similar to the season that we had last year, minus the fact that we have this year we're not going to have an MLS is back tournament down in Orlando, and we're not going to hopefully have a super congested schedule like we had in the last couple of months, where we basically had every single team playing 3 games in the span of 7 days every single week, because they want to fit as much games as possible in that shortened season of MLS. But overall, as much as it's great to see that MLS have an idea of some of these dates of some of their key events that's going to be happening this upcoming season. Obviously, the big elephant of the room that I think a lot of people are still looking at, and that these days I feel like is still subject to change, because of the fact that there is this big elephant of the room of what's going to happen with the current CBA, and how will the MLSPA and the ownership group will actually agree on this current CBA in time before it could potentially be terminated by the end of this 30-day period, and that the league could potentially go into a lockout. Like, again, as I said from yesterday, it seems like most likely maybe they're going to go down the wire once again in terms of deciding whether or not if they're going to stick with the current CBA. And that I also will say that at least for once the league did kind of acknowledge that they have this problem with both sides is still trying to kind of negotiate in terms of this current CBA, and that they kind of also mentioned that the league is trying their best to kind of negotiate a way where they will give 100% salary to players heading into this upcoming season. But yeah, my assumption to that and my opinions to that is what took them so long in terms of actually decided to acknowledge that this was an issue. Like, I know everybody knew that this was an issue, but the fact that the league did not talk about this, like even when I listened to the league official podcast Extra Time Radio, they didn't even talk about that either on the podcast. And I wonder, are those people on the podcast like Matt Doyle, Andrew Wiebe, and David Goss, are they especially being bribed to make sure they don't talk about this specific topic, even though they know in their back of their head that this is definitely an issue that's going to be plague the league, and that, you know, as I mentioned, if this current situation with both sides not agreeing with this current CBA, and that if this current collective bargaining agreement is going to be terminated, these days doesn't really matter. The league is probably going to be pushed back again, and that is definitely not a good thing heading into this upcoming season. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this, and that, you know, as we're just kind of in a waiting game of when exactly this current CBA is eventually going to be agreed upon on both sides. Let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these dates in terms of some of these key events that is going to happen? Do you think it's a good idea, the fact that the league is going to push back everything a month? And that, I think that most likely will help the fact that by the time when we maybe get into the middle of the season, hopefully there's going to be every single stadium at least have a limited capacity in the stands, or even some stadium might have full capacity because of the fact that maybe this pandemic is going to start to go away, and that we know that the vaccine is pretty much rolling out right now around the country. Some states might do a better job in terms of rolling out vaccine, and some states probably are not doing as well as other states. But at the end of the day, hopefully when we're able to get everybody vaccinated, we're going to once again kind of start to get things back to a little bit normal, where there's actually going to be fans in the stands. And hopefully, again, this season the target is definitely trying to get at least every single stadium to have limited capacity, and some stadium maybe even have full capacity, and kind of start to get back to some more normalcy. But let me know in the comments below, what do you think of this video, and also the announcement of all these dates of these key events that's going to be happening in the 2021 season. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.